Hey, this is Raise Radio, the holistic wisdom podcast for awakening women that weaves food and nutrition, traditional wisdom, spiritual expansion, so that you can feel your best, body, mind, and soul. I'm your host, Raina Lutz. Let's dig in. Recording this from BC Ferries. I'm headed to the island, and I did a bunch of laps, I did a bunch of stairs, tuckered myself out, and all of a sudden the craving hit to write. Now, if you're a writer, you understand that when the craving hits, you follow it. And I wasn't about to let this one get away from me. But I'm realizing my ability to be such a minimalist packer actually bit me in the butt because I could not find a pen for the life of me. So I'm rifling through my purse. There's no pen. I'm rifling through my car. It's too clean. I go to my trunk. There's no pen. I go to my laptop case. There's no pen. There's no pencils. There's no highlighters. So I run up to the gift shop and I buy myself one of those ferries moving up and down pens. Yes, they still have those. I'm pretty sure I got one when I was on BC Ferries in the 90s. And so I decided to put pen to paper. Lots of interesting things come out. So it's October of 2024. I know that in the podcast world, you're supposed to have very specific outcomes for your podcast. You're supposed to market your podcast so people know exactly what they're going to get out of it and why it's worth for them to listen. I understand that from a marketing perspective. I also have a beef with it because sometimes I want to talk about really eccentric different things. Sometimes I want to plant seeds that aren't exactly what I say in the title. So I have like random things I want to talk about, and that's just how it's going to go today. And people either decide to have patience and listen to me, or they skip to a different one. It's all good. It doesn't matter to me. And so I have been listening to Jack Kerouac's October in the Railroad Earth. If you are not into beat poetry, that's okay. I never thought the craving would hit. I was always a classic rock girl in the last decade. My musical tastes have expanded. When I was really young, if there was something outside of the couple styles that I liked, I would just say, no, that's not for me. But now, in any given day, I listen from everything from electronic to jazz to different like work focus beats to classic rock to poetry. And it's a collage of my life. It's a collage of different feelings and thoughts. And I like my music in the background of my life to fuel what I'm doing. So of course, there are certain times where silence is required, but a lot of the times I like to have music in my life. And so because I had such a long travel day today, I did listen to a lot of different tunes. I listened to different podcasts. And then by the time I got on the ferry, somehow I came across Jack Kerouac and I just decided, yeah, it is the time to listen to this beautiful poem. And that's what I need from that. I like my music or whatever I have in the background to enhance the feeling of what I'm doing. I also have a lot of playlists that I create. I love creating playlists, and that's because I'm really good at theming things. I think part of this comes from when I was really young. Also grew up in a very musical home. My dad was in bands when I was really young, and so my earliest childhood memories are hearing rock and roll in the basement, and that really shaped me into a person who understood that music is a wonderful and joyful part of life. I hung out in the arena a lot. I was a rink rat for a lot of my childhood, and I ended up being a music player for a lot of tournaments and games, and I became very skilled at knowing how to get music at the proper volume and fade it out properly and time it based on what was happening in the game and what message was I trying to portray with that song based on what had just happened, what play or event had just happened in the game. So, in my early teens, I already had a really good concept of music theming events and the feeling of things to enhance what's happening. Anyways, I'm listening to this beautiful reading, October in the Railroad Earth. Highly recommend it. And it got me thinking about October and about, how when the seasons change, they really have a feeling. And now for me to be driving through the Hope Princeton in the fall was really nostalgic, because when I studied holistic nutrition in Vancouver in 2010, I did that drive a lot from the coast back to Osoyoos. And so I got really familiar with how it felt to do that drive in every season. So it's really green and hot in the summer, and you can feel it changing drier and drier as you get into the desert. And how beautiful the oranges and the reds and the yellows are of the changing trees in the fall, and how white and icy and cold and scary it can be when you're traveling in the winter, and then how warm and light and pinkish and light yellowish it feels in the spring as things are shifting and reopening after the dead winter. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about this conversation that I overheard in August. Now, I do not frequent Starbucks. That is a place that I do not go. However, I was with a travel buddy in the summer, and she wanted to go to Starbucks. And I overheard someone saying, and keep in mind, this is August, someone saying, "Oh, pumpkin spice is on the menu already. That must mean that it's fall." And I had this light bulb go off in my head. Starbucks does not decide when autumn begins. Nature decides that. It's actually when autumn begins. These massive corporations deciding to put a high ticket, big sales item really early on their menu does not mean that fall has started. And I just thought that was a really amazing magnifying glass to this idea that we're not in tune with seasons anymore, and that we follow what corporations are telling us. And that's supposed to be our guidance rather than what our heart feels and what we see and what we're feeling and experiencing in our life. So if you're driving and you're, not paying attention and looking around and actually feeling the seasons change, you might actually need these big corporations to tell you, "Hey, it's this now. Hey, it's that now." It's just for sales. We know that they start selling Christmas to us the day after Halloween. And so all of this is about sales and not actually about being in tune with that season and understanding that the seasons of our life are changing and looking inwards and thinking about what that means for us. Right? So it's like, I don't buy pumpkin spice from Starbucks, but maybe I want to buy pumpkin. Maybe I want to buy canned pumpkin and make myself ginger pumpkin loaves. Or maybe I want to experiment with making my own pumpkin spice teas or coffees at home, right? There's different ways that we can bring this into our life that is so much more nurturing for ourselves and nourishing, rather than tapping our card at a drive-thru and feeling that that is the way that we can tune into the season. The best way that you can connect seasonally for yourself is to find some rituals that fit in with your life. So if I'm somewhere where there's a wood stove, I'm really excited about the fall and winter because it actually gives me a ritual, a practice to keep that belly fed, to keep that fire going. And that's really important to me. That feels really good. If I'm not somewhere with that, then I like to light a candle. So I'll have a candle going for, an hour here and there, or for a whole evening on the weekends maybe. I also like to find the foods that are in season at that time and incorporate them into my life. So whether it's teas, there's going to be local seasonal foods that I will find a way to incorporate. So for October right now, I'm working a lot with cinnamon, pumpkin blend spices and apples. So I'm doing lots of different things with apples because I have friends who keep giving me apples. So I'm doing apple crisp. I'm doing apple cider vinegar. I'm going to do applesauce. These are ways that I can connect with fall as a season and honor that getting ready for winter time by prepping, having a fire or some sense of fire and just going outside and crunching the leaves and smelling that season and actually experiencing it. And I think it's really important, as we're in this world today where everyone, is talking about being neurodivergent and everyone wants to be that. But the odd thing is we all already are. We don't need a label to be a unique person. So if you're a person who smells and feels a season rather than buying it, I think you and I would probably get along. Thanks for listening. You can find me online at www.rainadonlutz.com.